to another video. So, in the last lecture, we have just discussed about React fundamentals as well as JSX and structure and how to write separate components and individual components and how to import that and all those stuffs. So, in today's lecture, we are gonna just see about React hooks. So, hooks really made React app simpler because hooks once upon a time when pre-hooks era we would like to write class components instead of function components. So in the last lecture I have written components using functions, but those components would likely to be written in class uh, in pre-hooks era because uh, writing class in JavaScript is not that much hard, but the way it looks is really difficult to understand. So, hooks concept was introduced around I think so 2018, which was almost um, groundbreaking tech in React, which that's that's what turned many web developers to learn React actually. So, what is hooks first of all? So, what's a hook? A hook is a special function that lets you hook into React features. For example, useState is a hook that lets you add React state to function components. So, in class components, we would like to have state variables where in that state only we would likely to store our variable values. So whatever the value variable we will be declaring, every values will be stored in a state in class components, but in function components we don't have any state concept. So that's what was included in hook called use state. Using that use state we can just store any values like number, string, boolean, or an array or object, any data type we can store in use state. So that is use state is a simple example for a hook. We have many hooks. So why hooks? You don't have to refactor a functional component into a class component because writing a functional component is easier than writing a class component. So you don't want to convert it if so. Since consider an example where you are writing a functional component. If you want to use a state variable, then you have to convert that functional component into a class component. Instead of doing that, you can just use the useState hook so that it reduces your time, your lines of code, and reduce your reliability. So it is more reliable. Sorry, yeah, hooks are more reliable than writing a class component. You don't have to worry about this anymore because in class components we would like to use this keyword a lot of times, so we don't need that anymore because we are writing a functional component. And no more method bindings. In class component we have to bind methods, so since we are writing a functional component we don't need to do method bindings. Easy to decouple logic from UI, making both more reusable. So it's like you might be you might have seen in the last lecture that so the UI code, the JSX is same as in the logical part. So if you write a class component, the logical part will be separated as well as the UI part will be separated. So you couldn't do that much of code easily. So in by using hook, you can do both of the logic part as well as the UI part in the same class. We will see that how to do that in later of this lecture. So, for example, I have taken 5 hooks and I will demonstrate 2 of them. So, the first one is a use state, which I have talked about earlier. which is used to store and manage data within individual components. useEffect is used to perform actions like HTTP request or working with a browser API. Basically, useEffect is used to perform several actions like fetching through a API from the backend. So, useRef is used to reference JSX elements, as well as useContext is used to access data from React context to share data among components more easily. So, consider a situation where you have a parent component. uh, there will be content in the child component, as well as consider the parent component as two child components, one is a and the other is b. If you have some useState data in a, if you want to share it to the parent, you couldn't share that, or if you want to share it to the sibling, you couldn't do that. So what you can do, you can just store it in the parent, and through use context you can provide both of the data to the both of the child of that parent, of the single parent. So that's where use context is used for. Use reducer is used to store and manage data across multiple components. So basically these are the five really important hooks, and we do have many hooks in react. We have a bunch of hooks almost, but the usage, use effect and use context are really important. In this lecture I will be demonstrating use state as well as use effect. I will not be demonstrating use context because uh, the use context is also known as context API. This context API, uh, we can do we cannot do a large scale activities using this context API, but there is another concept called Redux. Using that, we can provide data efficiently to all the components inside the root component. So I'm gonna use Redux in our live project. So that's why I didn't include use context in our syllabus. Just I provided the definition. So comparatively, use Redux is much more better than use context. So we are gonna cover Redux in the next lecture. So let's start with the use state. So you can see this is the code which we have done in the previous lecture. So let me just first import the use state from react. So we have just imported that. So here I will be, so in a function, if this is the return statement with all the JSX, this is the UI part. So here I can write the logic part, which we have discussed earlier as a benefit of writing hooks. So here I am just going to use that. So here I am just going to create a use state variable called counter. So to do that, I'm just going to const, and inside an array I'm just going to give a counter comma. So okay, so before discussing use state, wait, let me just give another example. So why we need to use state, because you guys may have a question, why I need to use a use state variable? I can use a normal variable by declaring const let var like that. So I will just say that. So we will just have a var, because when we provide it as a const, we couldn't change the value of the counter. So here the var may be a counter which equals 0. So here I'm just going to have a button. So we have discussed about event handlers in We have discussed about event handlers in HTML or JavaScript lecture, but in Redux, event handlers are a lot more easier to use. As I mentioned in that lecture also, we can use on click for a button of click me. So here is a button of click me. So on clicking this, I am just going to use the on click event. In JavaScript or plain HTML, this C may be a small c, but here we do have a lot cap C. So make sure you have had a cap C here. So the button of on click which equals. So here I told previously that in the last lecture that if you need to use JavaScript inside JSX, then you need to provide a set of curly braces. So inside that on click, I'm just going to call a function called increment. So you couldn't provide any parameters to this increment. If you need to do that, I will tell in the later of in any other lectures to how to provide parameters. So while you are calling the function like this, you couldn't provide that. So here I'm just going to write a function of const increment. I'm just going to use a arrow function. Sorry, I have a typo here. I have spelled it as a inserment. So which equals an arrow function. So here I'm just going to say I'm not going to say let, I'm just going to say a counter which equals a counter plus 1. So here is nothing but we have just incremented the value of the counter by just 1 while we are hitting this. So let me just refresh it, it doesn't show any errors. So here I am just going to say console.log of counter. So okay, console log of counter, and I'm just going to display the value of the counter here by just using a h1 tag of counter. So in HTML we used to use inner HTML or by selecting this h1 using a demo or any other ID, and we used to use the inner HTML. So React really makes the complex process to a simplest one. So that's why I told we don't want to learn this anymore. We just need to know, that's it. So you can see here. Let me just open the console to print the console also. Okay, we do have the console here. Let me just have all. So I think it is already in all. Let me just expand this. So it's already in all. Okay, so now let me just compress this. So now let me just refresh, and now you can see we have just declared a value. We have just using an on click event handler, and I'm just going to increment it and just console log it as well as print it using a h1 tag. So now let me just click me. So you can see the values has been incremented here, one, and is console log, but the value is not incremented yet here. You can see I can hit many times. Value has been incremented here as 8, but there's no in the web page. It is 0. So my web page is now not dynamic, but I need a dynamic web page because that's why I'm using React. So to get rid of this, there's a concept called useState in React. So without declaring the counter value as a normal variable, we're gonna just use the useState variable as const counter comma set counter. I will say what is set counter means, which equals useState, and we will give a default value of 0. So you can see that here what I have done, I have declared it as a const, so I couldn't change the value. Now the useState variable is immutable, so I couldn't change the counter value by just giving a counter equals counter plus 1. If I need to change the counter value, I may use set counter. This set counter, how would I use that? Set counter is like a function. So let me just erase this and pass the set counter. It's like a function, and I may need to pass the value what I'm going to assign to the counter. If I need to assign or reassign a value, so here I have assigned it as 0 as a value. If I need to reassign the counter value, I may use set counter function and pass the new value of counter so that it may be updated here. So what's the new value? Counter plus 1 is the new value. So if I just what I have done here, this is nothing but called array destructuring. This is the syntax of a useState variable. This is how we have to declare a useState variable. So consider useState variable is an array. The first value is nothing but the counter value, and the second value of this array is nothing but a function which allows you to change the counter value. So that's what useState is about. So the rest of the part of the code is the same thing. What I can do, I can just put the console log out because the console log will log out the counter value whenever the value is being changed. So if I just click this button, click me, it will change the counter value. As soon as the value of counter is changed, now it will be console logged, because this activity is because of the useState variable. So I keep on telling useState makes your life simple. Okay, now let's click me. So you can see now the value is being displayed here as well as here. Both of the values are same. You can see you can hit it any in number of times. Now here it is 8, here it is also 8. So now, so that's it all about useState. You can even have you don't want to provide a number. Now this useState data type is of a number. You can even provide it as a string like this, or you can also even provide it as a array. So now inside that you can have a value called something like, you can have any value inside that. Like that also you can use the useState. We will be using useState a lot times in our live project, as well as we can use the object also. So yeah, so that's about useState. So here let me just have 0. So the next thing is about useEffect. To learn about useEffect, let me just import useEffect. So what useEffect does, useEffect creates a side effect. So if I use useEffect inside the function app, inside the component app, so it tells the browser that the app not only renders these JSX, but also it want to do a side effect. It want to do a side job of doing anything you do inside the useEffect. So what's its syntax is about? useEffect is a function which allows you to pass a function inside that. So here we can write an arrow function. So here I'm just going to say document dot title. So I'm just going to change the title of the first React app, since our React title of the page is first React app. I hate it, so I'm just gonna change it. So there is something called string formatting. So to do that, we don't want to use primitive double quotes or single quotes. We want to use the backticks. So this is the backticks. Where will you find that? Below the escape key in your keyboard, there you can get that. So in this backticks, we're gonna say clicked counter times. So how would I format this counter variables value here? So what I can do, I can just give a dollar sign and a open curly and as well as a close curly. So this is how I can format a counter value inside, or counter value or any variable value inside a string using backticks. So let me just refresh. You can see now the page's title has been changed to clicked 0 times. So now if I just click me, you can see the values 2 here, 2 here, as well as 2 here too. So what useEffect does here? useEffect does, it creates a side effect to change the document title while these JSX are being rendered. While rendering these JSX, it creates a side effect to change the document's title. That's what useEffect does in this case. But the main use of useEffect is used to fetch API from, fetch data through API from the backend. So that's what it is used. We will do that in the live project. While developing the live project, we will be using useEffect a lot much more times to fetch data. So you can have a dependency array at the end. So you can see this is called a dependency list, the second variable. So why I want this dependency list? So if you didn't give this dependency list, the request will be sent. If this is a HTTP request at the middle, so this request will be sent to the server millions of trillions of times because there's no restriction for this. So what in our case it does, it keeps on changing the document's title each and every second. Nevertheless, the value is being changed. If the counter value is changed, only I need to change the value of the document title. If counter value is not changed, I don't want to change the value of the document title. So that's why dependency array plays a major role in useEffect. So what you can provide, what are the values you can provide in the dependency list? In this case, the title changes, only the counter value changes. So counter is the dependency, so if the counter value is changed, it checks counter value is being changed. So we do want to change the title. So then only it will send a request and then change. So then only it creates a side effect and changes the document's title. So if I remove this counter, you can see that the value won't be changed. You can see it is 3 here, also 3 here, but here it is not 3 because there's no dependency for this list now. The side effect creator is being stopped. So if I want to create another side effect, we need to give a dependency of counter. If the dependency is counter, then the value of counter is being changed, so the value of being title is changed. So now if I just click here, you can see it is updated here, it is updated here. So dependency list plays a major role. So that's what about useEffect I want to say. So the next topic is about React router. So I have already explained about routing in HTML, where we want to create separate pages for home page, about page, contact page, settings page, like that. But in React, we don't want to create a separate pages. We can just create separate components and we can route to that component. while we are in the home page. If we are in the home page, we do want to route it to the next page, but in HTML we want to route it to another page. But in React we can stay in the home page itself, but we can route to the contents page and show the contents of the contact page. So that's what React router plays a major role. So to do that, we can just create a nav bar here. But before doing that, we need to install React router DOM. So to do that, create a terminal by clicking this plus sign. So it is now being created. So now what you can do, you can just enter yarn add reacts dash router dash DOM. So if you are using npm, you have to do npm install react router DOM. So we will just wait for it to be installed. So as soon as react router DOM is installed, you can just close this terminal, and if you go to package.json, you can see react router DOM is being installed here. So whatever different dependency you have installed, you can see those things in the package.json. So it just has a list of all dependencies is being installed. It just has only the name, but the node modules directory has the dependencies package. It has been installed here. So let me just close this and close this too. So now we're gonna just import browser router as router. I'm just going to rename the browser router as router, and I'm just going to import also route, and we're gonna need link as well as we're gonna that's it we're gonna need that's it from react router DOM. So these are the three things which we are gonna use. So give me a minute. So first, what we want to do, so give me a minute. So I'm back. So first we gonna just create a nav bar. What we can do, we will just first create a nav using a nav tag. Inside that, we gonna just give a h4 of home and sorry h4. Instead of h4, I'm just going to give a head tag so that we can just drop it, as well as another a tag for contacts and another a tag for what are the pages we have, about page. So that's it. So we do have 3 pages here. You can see it is in line. So first let me just style this in the app CSS. To style that, we're gonna just go here. We're gonna what? Let me just uncomment. We don't need these things, you know. So what we can do, we will just select the nav tag using a tag selector. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna just give a height of what we're gonna do, we can just give a height of 50 px, the background color of black, and now dot txt, we just give a text class name of text and just give a color of white. So I'm just going to provide this text color here as a class name, which equals sorry, we need to eliminate it here, we need to provide it here, as well as I'm just going to down arrow. So you can see now it is here. What I'm gonna do, I'm just going to, so let me just close this console log. So here what we're gonna do is that we're gonna just give a display flex and flex direction. Sorry, we don't need a flex direction. We're gonna just give justify contents as space evenly and align items center. That's it. So let me just refresh. So you can see that everything is in the center. So it looks like a nice nav bar now. So what we can do, if I just on click this a tag, we have to route to the pages. So for using, we can just do a href of dots. So sorry, we have to provide the components. So to provide the component, I'm just going to create some pages like contact dot jsx page. So inside that, so if you want to create a function component, in the last lecture I have told to install a extension of ESM and Redux React like that. So you can just say REAFC. If you have yeah, installed that, this shortcut might work for you. If you enter REAFCE and hit enter, it does a magic for you. It just imports a React and as well as it writes a function using an arrow function and it just returns a div tag and it exports the contact page. So now here we'll just have a h1 of contacts like so. And what we can do, we can import that contact here. So what I'm gonna do, copy this. So we will just admit this and copy that, and we will provide it here. So if you just refresh, so now they just so it really didn't work. So basically what a tag does, it just routes to another page, but we don't literally use the a tags in React. We would like to use link. So why we want to use link? Because link won't allow the page to refresh. So if a tag is here, if I just hit that, it might refresh the page and then go to the contact page. So I don't want it to be like that. So my page want to be much more cleaner. I don't want to refresh, so it automatically goes to the contact component. So as soon as I hit uh, the contact, so for that I'm just going to use link. Sorry, here's a typo. So inside that, first let me just give a class name first to style that. So inside that we just gonna give and I'm just going to do that. I just need it for 3 times, and I'm just going to copy this, paste it here, copy this, paste it here. So remove these 3 lines because no more we need that. So it shows like link is outside of a router, so it is correct that these link tags might be inside a browser router, because browser router, instead of browser router I have renamed it as a router. So what we can do, we will just wrap this entire component inside that router. Router, what it does, I don't know. So I think it should be inside. I often get this typo, I don't know why I get this. So let me just put these things inside that. So we have just wrapped everything inside the router. So now the link is inside the router. So now if I just hit this, boom, nothing gonna happen, because we don't have a href here in the link. We do have something called to. So what to does, it just routes to /contacts. So sorry, this might be default page. This is our default page, and to here might be /contacts, and here to should be about /about. So about like this. Okay. So here is a typo. So now it won't be routed. It may be routed, but if you just hit contact, you can see the URL has been changed. If I hit home, the URL has been changed. If I just hit about, the URL has been changed, but it is not routed to the component. So to do that, what we have to do at the end of the page, we have to give a route to that component. Here I'm just going to say a route. So this could be self-closing component, so we can just leave it like this. And here what we can do, we can just provide a component which equals the contact that we have created earlier. So now, so this contact is being imported here. So now if I just refresh, so you can see if we just hit contact, it should be routed to contact. So see, it is already in the contact page. You can see it is at the end, but I want these contents to be in the home page. So to do that, what I can do, I can do one thing called, so here I have missed a thing called path. There is a prop called path. The path has to be contact. So if the, as soon as I hit the contact, the URL is changed to slash contact. So if the URL is slash contact, the path is slash contact. So the path is slash contact. We're gonna just return this contact component. So if I just hit contact, it is here, but the home page I need these things. So how I can do that? Well, we can do one thing like route. So, and again I need a self-closing tag for route, and the path is gonna be the home page as a path of a single slash. And what we can do, we do have something called render, and inside this render, what we can do, we can just write an empty function, sorry, an arrow function, which returns these things. So we need to be everything to be inside a single component. So that's what it means. So we can use an empty ankle tags if you don't want to use a div tag or any other tag. We can just use a empty ankle tag. So you can see if we are, so if we are in the contact, these things should not be seen because we have to give a path of exact. So if it is exactly a single slash, we are in a home page. If we are in a slash contact, we are in a contact page. So that's how we have achieved the route in React. Little bit complex, so let me just explain again. What we have done, we have just created a navbar using link. In HTML we use anchor tags, and the href is equivalent to two tag, so sorry, two attribute. So in the two we provide the URL. The URL for the home page is single slash. So if single slash matches the path, these home page components are rendered. So if slash contact is matches the slash contact URL, contact component is rendered. So that's what it means. We are in a contact page now. We don't want to go to the home page because we don't have, we can just have the same thing here also, the exact thing. So that's all about React router. We need a browser router, and I renamed it as a router. We need to wrap everything inside that browser router, and we need a route which assigns a component to everything. But in the live project, we will be having everything in separate folders. We have these routes in a separate file. We have these things in a separate navbar. We have these router in completely different area. So don't mess with that now. Don't think about that now. We will be cautious when we are creating the live project on that topic. So with this, the basics of React ends now. So with the next lecture, we will see about what is Redux in React. So Until I meet you in the next lecture, goodbye. Thank you.